Well. It's been 5 years since the last mainline Assassin's Creed game, and Ubisoft is still absolutely shameless. Everyone pretty much knows that Ubisoft as a company hasn't been doing so well lately, with their stock prices dropping to an all-time low and how they're collecting controversies like they're their Infinity Stones. However, the most powerful and most impactful is one that I don't think enough people are talking about right now, and that's the unabashedly scummy business model that Ubisoft has infected with Assassin's Creed Shadows. And it would be one thing if this was a free-to-play game with really greedy microtransactions because the company's gotta make money somehow. But what really irks me are the titles that charge you the full premium $60 or $70 for a single player title while also having mobile game level microtransactions. That to me is truly the epitome of late stage corporate greed. And even in Ubisoft's desperate attempts to recuperate the audience sentiment that they've systematically destroyed over the past decade, they still could not control their ravenous greed and just had to force this crap into their games. We know that for the past couple of years, Ubisoft has been bleeding money non-stop with constant financial failure after failure. Like Skull and Bones, their very first quote-unquote quadruple A title because of just the sheer amount of money that they poured into the production budget alone. It was estimated that Ubisoft spent approximately $850 million into developing Skull and Bones, nearly $1 billion, and for what? Less than 1 million players on launch day? In which a majority of them probably didn't even pay for the game because they offered a free trial for it. And let's be honest, there was no shot on this planet Earth that Ubisoft was ever going to make a profit off of this game. How could they ever possibly recuperate almost $1 billion in sales revenue alone? That's not mentioning all their other projects that were also complete financial failures as well. Like Star Wars Outlaws, which had a budget of $300 million and only sold about 1 million copies, which sounds like a lot, but for a project of this scale, it's nowhere near enough. X-Defiant, Ubisoft's take on the first-person military shooter genre with a budget of about 80 million, died in a little over 6 months. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, although a fairly decent Metroidvania title and probably their best game within the last 5 years, it still massively underperformed based on Ubisoft's expectations, which led to the whole entire studio getting shut down. The same can be said for Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora and Assassin's Creed Mirage, well, except for the shutdown part. But as we can see here, Ubisoft has lost a lot of money within the past 5 years, and what we're seeing now are the death throes of a dying company. Like a starving hyena desperately trying to find some morsel of sustenance in order to keep itself alive just a bit longer. And they've been living like this for quite some time now. That's where we get to the current day with their latest money-grabbing stint with Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, this isn't their first time doing this. It's actually been happening for a pretty long time now, ever since AC Origins, but no one's ever really said anything about it. And since then, Ubisoft's been getting a little more brazen with their approach to adding microtransactions in their single-player games. First of all, if you want to buy anything from the in-game cash shop, yes, this single-player title has an in-game cash shop, and if you want to buy anything from it, you have to first purchase the premium currency from the premium currency packs called Helix credits, which you can use to purchase in-game money, skins, crafting materials, and even map reveals. Now normally I don't really comment when studios implement microtransactions into the single-player titles, like how you are able to purchase currency and revives in Devil May Cry 5, or how you are able to purchase free upgrade tickets in Resident Evil 4 Remake. You know, it's still pretty stupid, but I usually don't say anything when it comes to this kind of stuff. But Ubisoft has done something a bit different this time around because they've crafted Assassin's Creed Shadows specifically around these live service elements. Because it's one thing to put in microtransactions into a single player title, but it's another to implement battle passes and weekly quests into it, almost like it's a mobile game. And I think this is really rat behavior what Ubisoft are doing here. Now, I'm aware that there will be people who will say, well, why does it matter? It's just optional. You can completely ignore them without any impact to your gameplay. Well, yes and no, because even though it's true that you can technically ignore all the live service stuff, you can't ignore all the gameplay elements that it affects. And you can't really ignore how the developers built this game to specifically be played long term continuously. If it was just some optional stuff that you can buy that didn't really have any effect on the game design and it was put into the game as an afterthought, then I wouldn't say anything. But Ubisoft had intentionally made Assassin's Creed Shadows as bloated as they could in order to push the player into making the in-game purchases. Because it's not enough for Ubisoft to have the player just finish their single player title, put it down, and move on. No, they want you to perpetually keep playing their game in hopes that you'll continually give them money. Assassin's Creed Shadows is a single player game meant to be a forever game. They want you to keep coming back to this title over and over again like it's a mobile game. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, let me explain. I've been playing Shadows for a while now for my review that I'm gonna release sometime in a couple weeks. At this point, I have about 50 or so hours into this game because I'm trying to do everything that it has to offer and I am still nowhere near completion. And that's because Shadows is filled with so many checkbox activities and so much menial busy work that it takes an eternity to make any meaningful progress. This makes it so that you're more incentivized to purchase the time savers from the in-game cash shop. Ubisoft making this title overbloated and filled with monotonous tasks is by design, and getting you to purchase the time savers isn't their only goal. Yes, paying for the stuff in the cash shop is a nice bonus, but the actual reason why Assassin's Creed Shadows and pretty much all their previous titles in the last 5 years have been like this is because they want to keep you within their Ubisoft ecosystem. You see, whenever Ubisoft launches a game, there are usually 3 or 4 different prices for different versions that they offer. One for the base game, which is usually $70, one for the deluxe edition, one for the ultimate edition, and finally one for the subscription service where you can pay just $18 a month to play the game, and this is where the real intent lies. Sure, you can purchase the game for $70 to $130, and Ubisoft will happily take that money, but what they really want is for you to subscribe to the Ubisoft subscription service. And if it couldn't be more obvious, then why do you think they put the $18 a month option right next to the $130 option? It's to make the subscription look like a better deal in comparison to the $130 edition, which is a really clever psychological tactic used a lot in business called price anchoring. I mean, to any average Joe, this would seem like a steal. You get to play the latest AAA Assassin's Creed game for hundreds of hours and it's only for $18 a month? Yeah, why the hell not? And that's exactly what Ubisoft wants you to do. They want you to sub to their service because that way they can get more money out of you over time. And because many people chose this option, Ubisoft now has a financial reason to keep you within their ecosystem. That's why their games have so much busy work within them. AC Shadows alone has 36 temples, 27 shrines, 38 castles, 69 offering spots, and so much more. They want you to take ages completing their games because that way you're more likely to stay subscribed. Imagine this, an average casual dad gamer with a wife, 2 kids, and a bunch of responsibilities who only have about a couple of hours on the weekends to play video games. And since he's always been a longtime Assassin's Creed fan, he buys a Ubisoft Plus sub to play Shadows, thinking that he'll be able to knock it out in a weekend or two. Little did he know that it would be absolutely filled with tedious busy work meant to take up as much of your time as possible. So what should have taken this guy a couple of weeks to complete this title will probably take him multiple months, which is exactly by design. Ubisoft intentionally develops their games to be as bloated and as arduous as possible to make it so that casual players take longer completing their games, which would make them more likely to stay subbed for longer. They want people to spend 50 hours in their hideout, and they want people to spend the other 50 running around looking for scrolls in every temple. Sure, you can make the argument that a casual player might still enjoy Ubisoft games despite all of this, but many fans were also alienated by it, and in my opinion, this is the reason why Ubisoft games haven't been good in the past 5 years. Assassin's Creed Shadows is just the latest stint in trying to squeeze money out of their user base. But that's just me. What do you think? Do you think I'm crazy? Let me know down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one.